Italy. Good food, stunning scenery, and leaning towers. There's something quite intriguing about a tower that seems to defy gravity. Over the course of 200 years, not continuously, the 8 stories of the Leaning Tower of Pisa were slowly constructed. Mind you, during construction, the lean was already an issue. Nevertheless, construction of this marvel persisted through wars and financial crises. But by the early 19th century, the inclination was an astonishing 5 degrees off-center and at high risk of collapse. This prompted the initiation of a commission of engineers, historians, and architects to save the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Before Italy was united as one country, the Italian peninsula was divided into city-states until the country's unification in the late 19th century. One of the most prominent city-states was Pisa. The tower is part of the much larger Piazza dei Miracoli complex, consisting of the cathedral, baptistry, cemetery, and the tower itself. The piazza was intended to amplify the financial and political power of the state. Unfortunately, the Pisani didn't account for the foundation of soil and sediment under the piazza, particularly under the bell tower or campanile in Italian. Now, to understand the root cause of the tower's present inclination, we must understand some basic geology and the underlying sediment of Pisa. The earth below the piazza consists of 3 layers. Layer A is a 10-meter thick, sandy, silty deposit. Layer B is much thicker, at 40-meter depth, consisting of a relatively uniform distribution of very soft clay. Lastly, layer C is basically dense sand. You may notice a compression or hump in layer B, under the south side of the tower. This is mainly due to the compressibility of the underlying soil, likely due to the proximity to the river Arno. Anyway, enough geology for today. So, the first phase of construction began in 1173, and by 1178, work had progressed up to the 4th story. After this, work stopped for close to 100 years, probably due to wars with neighboring city-states. Until finally, in 1272, work on the tower resumed. Bear in mind that by this time, the tower had already started leaning because of its own weight compressing the clay beneath it. Interestingly enough, the fact that construction halted for close to a century allowed compression of the soil and clay in layer B. A study which analyzed the foundation and construction process of the tower explained that if the tower was completed in one phase, it would have toppled over. Thankfully though, Pisa loved to go to war with its neighbors. As construction advanced, the tower started shifting towards the south. To counteract this, builders used tapered blocks of masonry to bend the axis of the tower away from the lean, basically making the tower into a massive banana. Anyway, by 1278, construction had reached the 7th floor, and the inclination at this stage was about 0.6 degrees southward. After this, construction halted again for another 88 years. Then, at around 1360, work on the bell chamber commenced, and was eventually completed in 1370. By this time, the lean had increased to about 1.6 degrees. For the next few centuries, we don't really know the rate at which the lean increased, until in 1817, 2 English architects determined that the lean had increased to an astonishing 5 degrees. This meant that the addition of the bell tower and time itself played a big role in the lean of the tower. Following this measurement, an Italian architect, Alessandro della Gherardesca, excavated a catino, which is basically a walkway around the base of the tower. There is evidence to suggest that this addition further increased the inclination by more than 0.25 degrees. This meant that by the 20th century, the rate of the tower's inclination was actually increasing. Along the years, there were several attempts to stabilize the tower, but in all cases, the results were counterproductive. For example, in 1934, the foundation masonry of the tower was reinforced by injecting grouting to hopefully increase the strength of the structure. Because of this, the tower moved by about 10 millimeters southward. Then in the 1970s, there was an attempt to extract groundwater from underneath the foundation of the tower. This increased the lean by about 12 millimeters, showing how delicate and sensitive the foundation had become at this point. This led to authorities to close the tower to visitors in 1990, after which a commission was established by the Italian government with the task of stabilizing the tower foundation, while also maintaining its characteristic lean, as the lean attracts tourists and tourists bring money. A temporary fix was implemented in 1993 with 600 tons of lead weights, which were placed on the north side of the tower. Although being unbearable to look at, they worked. A more appealing solution was attempted by anchoring the tower to the ground. This, however, was unsuccessful, and so the Commission added another 300 tons of lead weights to reduce the movement of the tower more effectively. Following the addition of the weights, tensioned steel wires were wrapped around the tower to reduce the compressive stresses acting on the masonry, especially the lower levels on the south side. To remove these temporary fixes, a permanent solution was desperately needed at this point. Soil extraction had proven to be a successful solution to leveling settlements and foundations under major buildings such as the Metropolitan Cathedral of Mexico City and the Tower of St. Chad in the UK. But in both cases, the structure was never at a state of critical lean that the Tower of Pisa was in. Anyway, the Commission agreed to study the process and its feasibility in more detail. After this, a large-scale model, about 7 meters in diameter, was actually built in the piazza itself, not far from the baptistry, to get a clearer understanding on how the tower would behave. The scale model also helped the engineers improve the extraction process. To understand why it was so important to perfect the process first, while testing on the model, a rapid southward movement took place. It took them 6 weeks to regain stability of the structure. Anyway, the trials were a success, and a system of communication, decision-making, and implementation was developed. This meant that soil extraction on the tower could finally begin. Before starting, lightly tensioned cables were attached to the tower, stretching horizontally about 100 meters north to help stabilize the tower while extraction is ongoing. The first stage of soil extraction was conducted using 12 boreholes stretching over 6 meters with a target of 20 liters of soil extracted per day. After this, the tower had moved a total of about 80 arc seconds. This meant that some of the lead weights could finally be removed. The success of the first stage meant that the full extraction could begin. Thus, 41 extraction holes were installed, and about 120 liters of soil were being extracted per day. This meant that lead weights were slowly being removed, and by June 2001, some 50 cubic meters of soil had been extracted. The tower's inclination was reduced by 0.5 degrees, an astonishing feat, which did not tarnish the characteristic lean of the tower. After this, sporadic extractions took place to fully stabilize the tower, and the catino was securely attached to the foundation, increasing the footprint of the tower substantially. I absolutely love researching and explaining stories such as this, and I hope to keep doing them for all of us to learn. If you like the sound of that, be sure to hit the like button and tell us what you think in the comments below. Now head to the French capital to see how engineers are trying to save the Eiffel Tower.